I actually remember, I know this is totally off topic, but I remember being in school. And I think I was in like year 10 or 11. So I was like in the older ages of school. And because everyone knew I was a swimmer, everyone was like, oh, we'll put you in for the 1500-meter run. Like, I was telling them before, and I was like, that is going to be a mistake. Honestly, I nearly died. Like, I got to the end of the race. I was literally crawling. I came last. I was like, this is the worst. Because I can't run. I'm like, yeah, swimming couldn't be more different, could it?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I love the logic there. He's a swimmer. He can do the race.
Yeah.
Literally, the only thing that's similar is there's a start and finish. Everything else is different. Yeah.
Exactly. Everything in between is like the polar opposite. You know what I mean? Yeah.
The bit you've got to be good at, I'm not good at. Hi Em, how you doing?
Hello, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, very, very good. So this is your last week as an intern.
Yeah, officially my last week as a church intern. So yeah, it's been a super fast year, but really exciting. Really excited for what's to come. And yeah, I think I'm gonna miss being an intern. Really, I kind of like the busyness and being able to just jump into anything. Yeah. But yeah, I'm excited for what's coming.
So what have you got left to do?
Not much this week, really. I think it's just the usual stuff of I'm always in charge of church online and videos and stuff. So doing that, some social media, and of course seating plans for the services, because we still have to be distanced and make sure we can get as many people in as possible.
Yeah.
So yeah, and we've actually got 2 new interns starting next week. So I'll be figuratively handing the baton over to our 2 new interns as well.
We're really going to miss those seating plans, aren't we? That's been such a joy to work that out.
Yeah, it's like a fun little puzzle to do every week.
Like church Tetris or something.
Yeah.
Very good. So do you want to tell us who we've got on this week?
Yeah, so this week we're super excited because we've got Dan Jervis on, who is an Olympic swimmer. So he's just come back from Tokyo, but he's also from Resolven in Neath Port Talbot, so just up the road from me. And we actually used to know each other from swimming as well. So yeah, super excited to be able to talk to him again and talk about his Olympic journey and also his faith as well. So I think it's a really good episode to kick the podcast off with.
Yeah, I'm really excited because you know, when we were talking about potential guests to have on, I just happened to mention this interview I'd seen with Dan Jervis after his race, and just how awesome he came over. You know, shared about his faith and his church, and just came over really grounded. And then you said you knew him, and I was like, oh, we've got to get him on. So great way to start, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's going to be a really exciting conversation.
Dan, it's great to see you. Where are you sat, Dan?
I am right now in a random Costa in Upton Manor. I think it's like by Bournemouth in South of England. I'm on holiday. Yeah.
A random Costa in Upton. Wow.
Yeah.
You're living the life now, aren't you? You thought one day I know I'll have made it when I get interviewed outside of Costa in Upton.
I mean, I woke up this morning. I was in the caravan this morning. I woke up and I was like, I just realized I have absolutely zero internet in the caravan side. So I was like, I have to try and find somewhere now. But yeah, I found somewhere.
You've got to love a caravan holiday.
Gotta love them.
You can't beat them. Yeah. Are you there with your family?
Literally, yeah, it's just me, my mum and dad. Actually, my dad's on his way now to get my young niece and nephew. They're only 5. They coming up. So the first week we've had is really relaxing, and then the last 3 days are probably going to be chaotic. So no more rest. Yeah, but it's just us 3. It's nice. It's nice.
Great. Have they got a good swimming pool on the caravan site?
Oh, I'm not swimming at the moment. No way. I was actually saying to my mum and dad yesterday, the last time I was fully submerged in water. Now, obviously, I bath, I shower and everything. But the last time I was like in a pool or anything like that was the Olympic final. That was the
Wow.
last time I've swum. So
Wow.
yeah. So I know I'm on a 5-week break at the moment, and I'm loving every second of it.
That's just not a question I tend to ask myself. When was the last time I was fully submerged in water? Doesn't come up regularly.
Yeah, so our first question for you this morning, Dan, well, before we get started, it's actually nice to have a conversation again with you, because I think the last time we probably spoke was a few years ago when I was still swimming. So yeah, I'm super excited for this morning. And Brad, first question for you is, what does the word team mean to you? And who are the few people who have shaped you within that?
Well, first of all, hello, Emilia. It's lovely to
Yeah.
see you again. I miss our conversations on poolside and everything. But you know, how would I describe team? I mean, it means different things to everyone. To me, I've got a lot of different teams. You know, obviously, Emilia, you were part of that team at one point. You know, when we were in Neath Valley, Nexus Valley. You know, that was my team, and that shaped me. And you know, my church back home in Sardis. That's a different team to me. My family's my team, you know. But yeah, this is not an easy answer, an easy question, sorry. But yeah, I think you got to make. God, how would I answer this? I think a team would be what you make it. Do you know what I mean? It could be one person. It could be 20 people. Yeah, I think as long as you work together to achieve a goal, I think that to me is what a team is. Yeah.
Brilliant. So you've been into swimming for a long time. I looked you up this week on British swimming, because unlike Emilia, I've never swum with you. Maybe one day we could do that. But I see that, you know, in terms of international swimming, you know, you've been competing at a high level for a long time. You know, there's a number of medals there. So when you're in that world, then comes the day when there are trials for the Olympics, and somebody comes to you and says, Daniel Jervis from Nice, you're going to be in Japan competing for Team GB in the Olympics. How does that feel?
Well, it feels amazing. It is a little bit different than that. You don't get physically told you go in. You kind of know as soon as you touch the wall. Do you know what I mean? So going into this year's Olympic trials, I had 3 chances to qualify for the Olympics, because I was doing 3 events. I had the 400 freestyle, 800, and the 1500. And you know, I was going in ranked 1 in all 3 of them, and I was like, I've got this, you know. And I was a little bit nervous, but you know, I was excited nerves. And the 400 free was on day 1. I swam well, but I didn't win, and I was like, oh my goodness, like this is 2016 all over again. And what I mean by that is, in 2016, I was going in the Olympic trials in 1st position, and I failed to qualify, I kicked 4th, you know.
Oh, wow.
And so straight away I was like, oh no, this is it. This is the end of my career. And then the next day then I had the 800 freestyle, and actually on the day of the 800 freestyle, I really wasn't well. I think it was because I was so stressed about the whole week. Like, it's a very stressful situation, as you can probably imagine. And because I failed to qualify the day before, I thought to myself, oh, this is going to have a massive domino effect. And anyway, I really wasn't feeling great going into the race. But actually, when I was in the race then, I started to feel really good. And I missed out on the qualifying time by, I think it was 3/100ths of a second. And over an 800 freestyle, I mean, like, that's like ridiculous. I was basically just like literally just right to my name on the list. So I knew I had 1 chance left. And this year's been different, because normally in an Olympic year, you get 1 chance. And because of the COVID pandemic and everything, we've actually had 3 competitions where we could do it. But I wanted to do it in the first one, because I think if you fail to do it in the first one, it gets harder, because then you've got all the pressure for the last one. So I wanted to do it in this last race in the Olympic trials, and you know, I had immense pressure on me, pressure that I was putting on myself, mind. But you know, the race went really well. I can't tell you how much I was praying in the call room, because I was literally just like, this is like my life dream. But yeah, the race went really well. I qualified, and yeah, I pretty much knew I was going to qualify for the games with about 400 meters left of the race as well, because I could see the clock.
Wow.
And so I was like, so I remember turning with 100 meters to go, and I was literally just like, because I knew I'd qualified already, I was literally just like, just enjoy this moment. You know what I mean? Like, I might never have this opportunity, this moment again. So I was just like, enjoy it. And even though it's the last 100 or 1500, I mean, Emilia would know exactly how that feels. It feels like pure torture.
Yeah.
But I was just, I was enjoying it, and yeah, like I touched the wall and I knew I'd qualified. I mean, you're 90% sure you know you qualified because you've got to be picked as well. But yeah, that was how I found out. But when I got the email, when I got the letter saying that I'd officially qualified, it was lovely. It was literally just like, it was everything I'd ever wanted and everything I've ever worked for, and yeah, I was really proud.
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. So when was that then? When were the qualifiers?
It was April, so it was during the pandemic, you know, and it was. I said this in my interview after I qualified. It was probably the hardest week of my life, like, because what they'd done was, even though I think the restrictions were starting to ease, what we were finding was when you go to these big competitions, they had to keep us still on lockdown, so we weren't allowed outside of our room the whole time. The only time we were allowed outside of our room was to go and get food from downstairs, which was, you know, it was pre-packed and everything, and then we had to go back and eat it in our room, and when you're actually at the pool racing. So other than that, yeah, it was awful. Like, I'd paid an absolute fortune for my hotel in London, and my room wouldn't even, like, my window wouldn't even open. Do you know what I mean? And my hotel was in Westfield Shopping Centre, and it was a lovely, lovely hotel. And my view happened to be looking out over this Italian restaurant, so I was eating this disgusting, like, food. Like, it was super healthy, and I was looking down and eating people. I was looking down on people eating like margarita pizzas, and I was like, this is not the life right now.
Punishing you for wanting to do the Olympics. It's like prison for swimmers or something.
Exactly. It was literally like solitary confinement. I was like, this is the worst week of my life. But, you know, it ended up good in the end, and
Yeah, because you normally have roommates as well. Like, when you go to competitions, you'll be in a room with people, but you were completely by yourself. Well, everyone was for that week, weren't they?
Yes, exactly. I think you could choose to be in a room with someone, but what could have happened then was, say now we tested positive, that would mean your roommate would, you know, they'd be out of the competition as well, and you know, because like I did not want to risk that. You know, like, I'm super careful, and my team is super careful as well. But if they picked it up, you know, that's my Olympics over. So I was not risking that.
No.
And so then the day of the races come, and you're competing in the 1500. Did you know you were going to be interviewed afterwards? Is that something that they prepare you for? Is that something you'd thought about, or was it sort of, you know, you've just got out of the pool shattered and a microphone is shoved in your face?
No, you know you're going to be interviewed. Like, especially after the Olympic final. But yeah, the day of the heat, because the heats are in the evening, I pretty much knew I was going to be interviewed. And for me, you know, I really don't mind interviews. I quite enjoy them, to be honest with you. I literally just talk. Do you know what I mean? I just be myself. And yeah, so I knew I was going to be interviewed by Vaughan-Davies, who's, you know, a fantastic commentator. She's lovely as well. But yeah, we knew that was going to happen.
Yeah. Had you thought about what you might say, or was it spontaneous? Or?
No, it was completely spontaneous, actually. To be honest, I'm pretty much oblivious to everything I say in an interview, and I just pray that it comes out all right. But no, like, you know, I had an idea what I wanted to say, and basically all I wanted to do was just, like, you know, speak about how the race went, obviously, and then just speak about me as, you know, as a person, you know, because, well, all of us, you know, Emilia knows this as much as anyone, that, like, I'm a completely, like, normal person. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was brought up normally, I had normal family, normal upbringing, and I just made it to the Olympic final. And so I was literally just, all I wanted to do was, yes, say how the race went, but basically say to all the, not just the younger people back home, like everyone, like, you can do what you want as long as you put your mind to it and work hard. And so yeah, that's all I wanted to say. That was like a brief idea of what I wanted to do in the interview, but other than that, I didn't really think about it.
Yeah, because for us back home, I mean, Emilia, you and Dan obviously know each other. I didn't know you back then, and people were starting to share on online. Oh, have you seen this interview? And I watched it, and it was just such a natural thing. It was just so full of just your own heart, and weirdly, I kind of, you know, this happens sometimes, doesn't it? You see another sort of Christian taking an opportunity like that, and you don't know them at all. You've got no reason to, but you just feel really proud. You're just like, oh, you know, it was a great opportunity. So thank you for sharing what you shared. Obviously, one of the things you said was you thanked your churches. So how have they supported you?
They've been fantastic, you know. So I mentioned two churches in the interview. I mentioned the church I was brought up in, Sardis Baptist Church in Resolvan, my village, and I mentioned another one, which is Ammanford Church. Now, I don't actually know if it's called Ammanford Church. This is how much I know about the church. Okay, so what they have done for me is, I know the minister of the church really well. His name's Gareth Sheedy. He's a fantastic minister, and you know, he's been a massive help to me throughout the pandemic and everything. And what I found out before I went to the games was, you know, my church, Sardis in Resolvan, they weren't doing Zoom calls and everything. They weren't recording the services, but Gareth's church was. And so I said to him, would it be all right if I could join in the services? Because obviously it's great to be in the church environment and everything, but when you're the other side of the world and nothing resembles home, that does give you a little bit of home. Do you know what I mean? A little bit of normality. And you know, when I was out there, I wasn't really in contact with my church back home in Sardis, but I was in contact with Ammanford all the time because I was seeing them a lot on Zoom. So that's why I thank them, and that's how they helped me and everything. But my church back home in Sardis, you know, they're like a second family to me, really. Like I've known them all my life. I don't remember not knowing, you know, because, well, as I said, I was brought there really from birth every Sunday and in the days in between sometimes. And they've just been a constant support to me. Do you know what I mean? Always asking me how swimming is and how everything's going. And then, you know, I think they understand as well when it's getting to the point where it's really stressful. Like before the Olympic trials and before the Olympics, it was really, really stressful. And I think they knew sometimes not to kind of ask me about it as well, which is a form of support, to be honest with you. Because, you know, if someone's asking you all the time what you're doing next, where you're going next and everything, it does get to the point where you're a bit like, you know, I'm a human being as well. Swimming is just a hobby that we do on the side. So that's how they supported me. They've been fantastic. And obviously the prayer and everything they've given me is unbelievable. And I couldn't ask for more, really.
That's amazing.
Yeah. You said earlier, sorry, backtracking, that like when you were in the call room before going, like you were praying in the trials, and then obviously when you were out there in Tokyo, tuning into like Ammanford's, we're going to call them Ammanford Church, even though that might not be their name, into their services. So like obviously your faith is a massive part of your life, but how does that like go hand in hand with like the pressure and ups and downs of being an athlete, and especially over the last like 2 years or so?
I'd like to think I've always been quite open about my faith in my swimming career, but I find it does definitely help out. And when I say that, I don't mean because I'm a Christian it means I'm going to win the race. Otherwise, I'd be Olympic champion. We'd all be Olympic champions. You know what I mean? But what I find is, you know, before a race, I always pray, no matter what the size of the competition is, whether it's West Wales competition, you know that one, Emilia, or it's the Olympic finals. Do you know what I mean? I always pray like kind of God's will be done. Do you know what I mean? So if I'm meant to win, I will win. If it's going to benefit others, not the people I'm racing against, but if it's going to help people back home that I don't win, then that's okay. Do you know what I mean? Like sometimes God takes you on paths that you don't want to go down, and like I know that as well as anyone, especially with 2016 missing out the games. But yeah, I find like, you know, being a Christian in elite sport, it's like it's just normal. You know, I've never ever had anything said against it. To be honest, people have only been positive, whether they are Christians themselves or not. They've always been asking me about it, you know. And I always find that if people are interested in my faith or, you know, the Christianity, I always feel like if they asking me about it, well, they're obviously thinking about it. Do you know what I mean? So it's obviously planted a little seed, and you know that seed could grow. So yeah.
Yeah, there's huge comfort in that sort of just the sort of the umbrella of God's design and God's will in it. that it takes, you know, a huge pressure off in one sense. You know, there's a call on all of us, I guess, to do our best with what God has given us, to steward the gifts and the time He's given us, and then what He does with that and where He leads that is over to Him. Because as I was listening to your interview, one of the things I thought was really lovely about it was obviously you were chasing a British record and chasing a medal, and it didn't happen. But it didn't seem to crush you. You know, you were still very, very positive. Spoke about the British record being beaten by another Welshman, i.e. me, and you know, so you still had that. And I thought it was quite refreshing, because we'd seen other things at the Olympics, not to name anyone, but where people had got a bronze or a silver and been like devastated, you know, to deeply crushed by it, not even wearing their medal for certain things, you know, and so I guess there's that sense of an undergirding for you and other Christians in sport, that, you know, the ambitions you have are, you know, there's a sort of a safety net to that in your faith.
Yeah, I think obviously when I went to the Olympics this time, everyone hopes to leave with a gold medal around there. You know, that's what's being asked is. But you know, my aim for this Olympics really was I wanted to get to the final, because, you know, I've been on the British team now since 2017. I've gone to World Championships, Europeans and everything, and I always found that I get nervous when I get there. I get so nervous that I don't swim well, and I never get to the final. And so this time I got the Olympics, I got to the final, and I just felt like, I don't know, I just felt like not the amount of people in the world that have this option. Like, I was thinking this in the Olympic final. I was in the call room before it. I was thinking the amount of people in the world that have this opportunity is so small. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not a very good prayer. I'm not a very good, you know, social talker. I'm not very good at things like that. I can't talk in front of a lot of people very well. But I was thinking to myself, like, you know, people who can do that have a gift. Do you know what I mean? And they use it. Well, hopefully they use it. You know.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, like, this is kind of my gift. God has given me this platform. You know, and I knew, like, obviously when I was swimming, I wasn't thinking of that, but just before my interview as well, I was thinking to myself, like, millions of people are going to be watching this. Do you know what I mean? And it's live. So I was like, I can pretty much say what I want, and they can't stop me saying it. I would never say, obviously, I would never say anything bad anyway. Some people were saying bad things, but, like, you know, yeah, I just felt like, you know, it's God had put me in that place, and I was just like, just use this opportunity. Do you know what I mean? Because, like, really, our lives are based around, our lives should be based around God. Right? So, you know, I feel like, and I think it was Gabrielle Douglas said this in the 2012 Olympics where she won. She said something like, you know, the glory goes up to God and the blessings rain down on us. And I was like, that is so good, you know, and it's so true. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't make any sense.
No, it did, yeah.
Perfect sense.
It did make sense.
Okay.
I was actually thinking about that last night, that, like, God gives us such, like, unique and amazing ways to be His ambassadors and just to share our faith. Like, whether you're a pastor like John or whether you're a swimmer, like, God gives you the opportunity, gives you the platform. And yeah, I think it's amazing that this is yours and you get to do it in such a unique way. And you said, like, you're not a very good talker or anything, but I think what you said earlier, like, really shows that you are, because, like, you just speak naturally, like, as you're speaking to us now, like, that's what the interview was like. And I think that's what really shone through. Like, when I listened to it, it was just so, I don't know what it was just so simple. Like, you weren't reciting anything, you weren't trying to prove a point or do anything. You could just tell that it came straight from your heart. Yeah, and even afterwards, I went on social media for, like, even a few days afterwards, people were still sharing it. And yeah, I think it was just the absolute simplicity of what you said. And just the simplicity, no problem. And I think it just represented the simplicity of God, really, and what He calls us to do, just to be His representatives. Just to keep following Him.
I 100% agree with you. I mean, you know, as we spoke about earlier, like, you know, God takes you on places that sometimes you don't want to go, but, you know, you find that in years to come, it becomes a blessing. And, you know, that's actually one thing I've learned since the Olympics is, and the story that's kind of come out of it is, as I said, in 2016, I failed to qualify. And I think I spoke about this before, and so you might have heard this story before, but I said that in 2016, before the trials, in the few days leading up, and actually the few hours before the actual final, I felt like a very strong presence of God. And I was thinking to myself, like at the time, like, this is it. This means I'm going to absolutely dominate this race and everything. I was like, me and God, we're together. What is this going to be like? It's going to be amazing. And I failed to qualify. And I was like, what happened there? Do you know what I mean? I was like, I had everything going for me. And, you know, for the few weeks after, actually, I was thinking to myself, like, you know, I was saying, when I say I was praying it to God, I was more like angry saying it to God. I was like, what happened? Do you know what I mean? I was like, why would you be there for me? And then all of a sudden just leave me like that, you know? And it took me such a long time to realize that that's actually not what he was doing. It was actually because I wasn't ready for it. Do you know what I mean? I wasn't ready. Like I wasn't ready to go to the games or anything. And I found that now that story is actually resonated with quite a lot of people. Like, you know, it might not be the right time then, but you know, now it is, you know. Yeah.
No, that's absolutely amazing. I guess in some ways, you know, knowing that you're going to be interviewed live and that, you know, the world will be watching, so no pressure, you can sort of prepare for those things. And yet, you know, as you were saying earlier, we're called to be ambassadors for Christ all the time, you know, and I think, you know, you just sharing that is really helpful, because it's not just in success that we get an opportunity to share, but it's also sometimes just sharing those times of like real questioning or real search or real hurt. We can still shine for God in those moments, because, you know, God shows up for us in failure as well as in success, you know.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Like in my church, you've probably heard of them. Have you ever heard of Teen Challenge?
Yeah.
I think it's called. Yeah. Well, yeah. Everyone's heard that. But like I say, like, oh, it was a difficulty not qualifying for the Olympics. That difficulty and some of the difficulties that you hear, like, they don't compare. Do you know what I mean? Like, that is not a problem for me. Do you know? I mean, it's a problem for me, but like, in the grand scheme of things, it's the smallest issue. Do you know what I mean? And so when you hear those people speaking and saying the troubles that they've gone through and how they've overcome them, I'm literally sitting here like being like, I've had the most privileged life ever. Like, what am I mourning about? Do you know what I mean? What am I worrying about? And so it's people like that really are going through stuff and then show how strong God's will is.
Yeah. Amazing.
And I always think, isn't hindsight a wonderful thing? That like now you can look back and see like how God was working like through those few years and through everything around you. But at the time you're like, why is this happening? Like, I thought it was going to be this outcome, but now you can kind of see like the path that God was clearing for you to go down. And I think like for 2016, you probably had a near perfect preparation for like that Olympic cycle, and didn't qualify. And then compared to like the last few years, the last 2 years, you could have had like a perfect cycle coming up to March 2020, but then suddenly that kind of all went out the window a little bit, and you still managed to qualify. And like how amazing that like it was this year that happened. But sorry, just backtracking again. But how did you deal with that, like that transition in March 2020? Because obviously by that point there was only a few months left until Tokyo 2020. So it's probably already a lot of work in the bank that you'd done. Like you were already quite prepared. So to be kind of cut off at that moment, how did you deal with that?
It was tough. Like I remember when COVID first started coming about, I was like one of the people that was literally just like, stop reacting about it. It's just the media trying to make it bad. And then the next thing we know, we're all in full lockdown, and everything's just on hold. And I remember thinking to myself, you know, when did we go into lockdown? Was it March? It was about March, wasn't it? So the Olympic trials were then in April, and I was thinking to myself like, oh my goodness, like if they shut in the pools now, I've got 3 weeks until I've got to try and qualify for the Olympics. And when I say qualify, obviously you've got to win, but you've got to hit the time as well. And if you don't hit that time, you ain't getting on that plane. You know, and I remember thinking to myself, like, what am I gonna do if they shut in the pools? And so, you know, it wasn't long before the Olympics was actually postponed, but you know, when it was postponed in the beginning, I was like, I was devastated. Do you know what I mean? Because one of the reasons why I was devastated is because obviously it's the Olympic Games. I want to be, even in years to come when I'm retired and I've children of my own, I want to be like, I'm an Olympian. Once you're an Olympian, you're always an Olympian.
Yeah.
And so what went through my head was, I'm not going to be able to say that about myself. I've done all these years of training and I'm not going to actually get that cherry on top of the cake. But another reason why I was disappointed was, this is so shallow, but I've always wanted an Olympic tattoo. And I was like, I'm not going to be able to get it. But thinking about it now and the last few months is, I really wasn't, physically I was so ready in 2020 to go to the Olympics and perform, but mentally I was not ready. Like physically I was in the best shape of my life. I'd done all the training, what my coach had done. He'd done such a fantastic job, but the work that I had to do on like my mental state towards the sport really wasn't up to scratch. And what would have happened again was, I'd go into the Olympics, I'd swim the heat, I'd swim terrible again, and then I think to myself, it's all be for nothing. And so what I found over, the year that we were in the pandemic, the harsh bit of the pandemic, was that I was able to work on myself, kind of, and I was able to kind of, when I say work on my faith, I don't really know if that's the right way to put it, because that didn't really change. I did feel as if I had to trust God a lot more. Do you know what I mean? Because I was a bit like, God, this is totally out of my hands now. I have to put this all to you. And I had to do things like run, which was grim because I can't run to save my life, and I had to cycle a lot, which I don't mind. And do you know the lakes in between Resolve and Gleneath? Yeah, so I had to swim in them, which I would not swim in anyway. I'm such a bad water swimmer. But also because like when you're in the pool, you look down and 2 meters below you see tiles. Well, when you're in those lakes, you look down and about 50 meters below you is completely black and you don't know what's down there looking back at you. And so I was literally just like, it's probably the fastest I've ever swum in my entire life, because I wanted to get out.
That's the secret.
Yeah.
That's the secret. Yeah, pretend someone's chasing you. But what I found, sorry, I'm going back to now. I really wasn't ready in 2020, and what I found was this pandemic, with the help of God, really got me mentally ready. So what I mean by that is, like, I was actually ready to go to the Olympics when I went this year. Do you know what I mean? And I might have been like physically ready in 2020, but like I was not ready personally.
Yeah. Like I think that obviously the pandemic has been awful in so many ways, but I think for a lot of us as well, like that time of like seclusion and lockdown was actually time to kind of took away the distractions and busyness of everyday life to spend more time like with God, and maybe whether that's praying or diving into the word or whatever it may be. And it just kind of, because I think I experienced that as well, especially in like that first 8 months. And it kind of reminded me of like when Jesus would go to like the quiet place or take himself away from a situation to go and pray and to spend time with the Father. And I was like, actually, even though this is so bad in so many ways, and actually I've got this time now to like take myself away to spend like that quiet time with God, and like what a blessing in a lot of ways those few months were as well. And that you had the same experience is it's really encouraging, and that God is with you through that leading up to this Olympics then as well.
That's so good, Emilia. Like I really didn't think of it that way. Like when you said about Jesus would go away to spend time with God, I really didn't think of it that way, and I kind of wish I had now. But yeah, that's a really good way to put it. Yeah, I like that.
And I liked what you said about trusting God, that when everything else is sort of taken away, but like the song, isn't it, when the music fades and all is stripped away, and we simply come to God. And I think that has been the experience for a lot of Christians, is that we were locked down in our houses, we weren't really sure what online church was going to look like, or if it was going to work, and we had to really, dig deeper. And you wouldn't wish this experience on anyone. I mean,
No.
we've been very fortunate. We haven't had the worst of it, really, for us as a family. And you wouldn't wish it on anyone. And yet, within that struggle, if you can find it, there is a gift, and learning to trust God, and learning that yes, we've been through something that nobody really saw coming, and nobody was prepared for, nobody had the answer for, but God was still sovereign. God was still good. Just change your perspective.
Oh, 100%. And I feel like, when we talk about like trusting God, and when people ask me, oh, you must, well, people do ask me this, you must have trusted God a lot for your swimming and everything in the beginning and throughout the pandemic. I'm like, well, yeah, I did towards my swimming, but like I had bigger worries. Do you know what I mean? Like I love swimming. Swimming's a big part of my life, but it's not my life. Do you know what I mean? My family is my life. Do you know what I mean? And my mother's diabetic, and she when it was coming out at the beginning of the pandemic, that people that are diabetic, this is going to affect them. That's what I was worried about. I didn't care about swimming then. Do you know what I mean? And so what I was thinking of, and I said this to my coach at the time, I was like, look, like this was when the pools were starting to open back up. And when I say the pools, it's like the pool. So we had one in Wales, and it was in Newport.
Wow.
So. But I said to him, I was like, if I go to there and one person gets it, or I think to myself, it's not as safe as I wanted it to be, I said, I'm not training. Do you know what I mean? I said, my family is much more important to me than my swimming career. And so when I say I trust God, that's what I was trusting. Do you know what I mean? I was trusting that. And I was praying all the time. I was like, God, just keep this away from us. Do you know what I mean? Just keep it away from us, the family and everything. And, I was thinking actually this last night with my parents when we were sitting down eating, not one of us in my family ever had it. You know what I mean? It's a miracle, because me and my dad, we painters and decorators, and so when things started opening back up, we were going in people's houses, obviously, and the risk that was imposed on us was massive. And so for us to not have had it is a miracle, And so
I just think like how good it is that like God cares about every little detail like of our lives. Like I always think that obviously that was a super important prayer that you were praying at the time, but then I always, when you think of like the condition of the world, surely like God had bigger things to do, like in the grand scheme of things you'd be God, surely like you've got bigger fish to fry at this point. But he's still like every little details of our lives, like he's like, no, like I'll be with you, I'll walk you through it. And that's amazing. What role would you say your family has played in your swimming career, and especially leading up to the Olympics? Because obviously you're super close.
Yeah, I am super close to my family. What role have they played? I mean, the biggest role that they've ever played in my life is, they taught me about God from the beginning. You know what I mean? I've always gone to church and everything. But they've definitely kept me grounded while swimming, because when you go to the Olympics, some people tend to like let it get to their head. Well, they would never let that happen to me. The role they played has just been just supporting me. And when I go home every day, I don't live at home right now, but anymore. But when I do see my parents, they'll ask me like, "How's it going?" And I'll say, and then we kind of won't talk about it again. Do you know what I mean? Because they know, like, obviously this now, I like talking about it because it's my job. Do you know what I mean? But when I'm back home on a normal day, I don't really talk about swimming that much, because it's the most boring thing in the world sometimes. But they just been very supportive of me. But as I said, they kept me very grounded, and the best support you can have is they prayed for me all the time, and they've been great.
That's amazing. So I know you're on a bit of a pool break now. I think, is it 5 weeks since you've been in the water?
How long's it been? I think it was, what day is it? I don't even know what day it is. Is it Wednesday?
Thursday. I didn't know myself though.
When you're on holidays and literally the days blend into one. Like, I don't even know what I had for food last night.
That is the best feeling.
The best feeling. Yes. So I think this Sunday now, it would have been 4 weeks exactly since my race, since the final. And so I think I've got another week. But when I say I've given myself 5 weeks, it's the earliest I'm going to go back is 5 weeks. I've actually written a list out for myself that I'm going to do. And if I don't complete that list, I'm not getting back in the pool. Do you know what I mean? And there's things like, I bought a paddleboard. I haven't had a chance to use it yet. So I bought a paddleboard. I want to go paddleboarding. I want to go kayaking, and I want to do little things like that. Like I want to climb Pen y Fan. I've never done that, and you can see Pen y Fan from my parents' house. Yeah. Exactly. Everyone says it's beautiful, and it's such a typical Welsh thing to do, and I've never done it. And it's not far away. And so it's things like that I want to do. Like I don't have a chance to normally do. So yeah, when I say 5 weeks, it's like 5 weeks is the minimum that I'm at now. But I wouldn't let myself have any more than 6 weeks, really. So like I'm gonna do everything I want to do in that week.
Wow, it's gonna be a busy week.
It's gonna be really. I'm gonna be exhausted by the end of the week.
You've been listening to Team Talk, a new podcast series from the South Wales Baptist Association.
If you've enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to like, share and subscribe.
Find us on Facebook, YouTube or Instagram.
And for more information, check out swba.org.uk/Team Talk. Thanks for listening.